Hi there. I have a couple finished junk journals. I'm only going to do one of these in this video because I tried to do both of them and I ran over 15 minutes and my little mini iPad that I videotape with won't upload to YouTube anything over 15 minutes. So there'll be another video next to this one that you can go look at. I'll do that one later. So first I'm going to do this one. I used a vintage file folder. It's a 6x4 A6 size, and I put a cluster on it on the front, and I made a pocket on the inside, and I added some vintage wallpaper to strengthen the spine a little bit. Here we have a vintage envelope from 1941 with a stamp, and then just some extra paper that I put inside of it that didn't come with it. This is just some vintage paper that I put inside there. And we have a cluster. All of the papers in this are vintage except for the scrapbook paper. I didn't staple in any of the clusters, I just clipped them in. Vintage map book paper. This is from the cover of a 1937 Ladies' Home Journal. And I cut it down. This is a piece of vintage wallpaper that I just ran across. It's really pretty. You'll find quite a bit of it in this book. Some scrapbook paper. A book page. Little piece of scrapbook paper. I did some badge cutouts, vintage cards, and then another cluster. It says October 1963. This is from a vintage embroidery book. Vintage music song page from an old recipe book. A little bit of tracing paper, scrapbook paper, ledger paper. This came out of a old magazine, probably the 1930 Ladies' Home Journal. This is an old typewritten recipe page book that I found. I just love that it was typed. It's a little music page out of a little music book, quite vintage. A little blank receipt, an old dictionary page, and about a 1950s book on learning to type. I thought the different reds and blacks and typing and stuff would make a great background for journaling. Little vocabulary card says to be. A vintage postcard, 1969, it's blank on the back. A calendar page from 1938. And then on this side it says amusing and helpful facts from the world of science. A couple ads. This is from an vintage electrical book. Or I think it's just like a mechanical book, mechanics. Another little badge cut out from some scrapbook paper. Other page on the typing. Another cluster. They're all clipped in so you can move them around as you'd like. And then the center, we have a piece of the vintage wallpaper, a vintage card, and a little pack of cutouts from different papers and things that you could use in your journaling. And another vintage card, piece of scrapbook or vintage paper. Interesting paper I thought you could use in journaling. Did I say scrapbooking before? And green stamps. Here we have another cluster. Another cutout from a vintage card. A glassine bag that it's actually vintage, and then I put stamps in it. They're not all vintage. Well, they're probably mostly different vintage years. I don't think that they're really new, but they're not real old, but they're colorful. A little card you can use, ledger journal card. There's some writing on that one. Music, embroidery, another cluster, a old dictionary page, nicely yellowed, like a pocket dictionary. I think this is a pretty layout right there. That's the back of the Ladies' Home Journal, the inside cover. That's pretty too. This is a little packet of vintage wallpaper, little pieces that I thought maybe a person could use in their journaling, do different things with, so I added that. Another vocabulary card says to play. Two little vintage pieces of paper, another one of those like that, and then this is an original receipt from Tootle, Wheeler and Motter Mercantile Company from 1908. And that is actually original, that's not just a copy. So, and then you can see a little bit of the wallpaper there, and the back of the book. So these are great to just use. The cover's nice enough to just use as a journal on its own, or it's a perfect size for your A6 traveler's notebook. So these will be available. This will be available in my ISTE store, and I'll leave the link below. Thank you for watching.